Hey up, it's Steve from the Old Yorkshire Geek, and welcome to the next episode of my feature. Again, I can't remember what I call it. The top 5 favourite movies from each year since I was born. That sounds fine, doesn't it? Have we cracked it, finally? Whatever. Anyway, we're up to 1980. Guess what film is in this list? Obviously. So we're doing 1980. This is going to be top 5. My personal favourite 5 films from this year, 1980, and I've got several honourable mentions. How many honourable mentions have I got? Not as many as previous years. I've got 5. So I have 5 faves and 5 honourable mentions. And to be honest, a few of these honourable mentions could be interchangeable with the top 5, but it doesn't really matter. Before we start, don't forget, like and subscribe, share the videos, drop a comment, hit the notification bell if you're subscribed already, and all that jazz. What else? As usual, I will iterate that this is my favourite films, not particularly the best films. I'll be missing lots of films out. These are just my favourite ones and the honourable mentions. It doesn't mean, that it's a definitive list of the best films of 1980 or any other year. They're just my favourite ones, the ones that I revisit more often than not than other films. So it's just a favourites list, and they're not in any order. The first one isn't the best, the last one isn't the best. It isn't a countdown or a count up or whatever. It's just a list. Right, so with that out of the way, let us begin with the first film, which is Flash Gordon, the Sam Jones Flash Gordon, directed by Mike Hodges, starring Sam Jones, Melody Anderson, Ornella Muti, Max von Sydow, Timothy Dalton, Brian Blessed, Peter Wingard, and many, many more. It's an amazing film. I love Flash Gordon. I really, really do. It's campy, the effects are rubbish, but I love it because it's just so much fun. So I remember when this first came out, I went to see it at the cinema, and at the time there was a bit of a big thing on the BBC about it, because a BBC presenter appears in the film, Peter Duncan, who at the time was a presenter on children's TV show Blue Peter. They even showed like bit behind the scenes of him on Blue Peter. They didn't show his fate because he gets killed in it. He gets run through with a sword in a reasonably gruesome manner. But anyway, so there we go. So that's Flash Gordon, an amazing film. Go and watch it. It's brilliant. A bit like Barbarella, in that sort of campy, over the top, very colourful sci-fi thing, but from 1980. Right, let's move on. Next up is Battle Beyond the Stars, which I covered recently in Magnificent Mondays. Again, another film from that year that I went to see at the cinema and was blown away by, even though it's not the best science fiction film ever made. We all know about this one. It's another version of the Magnificent Seven / the Seven Samurai. Produced by Roger Corman, the late Roger Corman, who passed away recently, at the grand old age of 98. God, I hope I last that long. I don't think I will. Anyway, directed by Jimmy T. Murakami, who apparently was in a bit over his head. He was more of an animation guy, apparently, and he was in a bit over his head with live action. But, he got through, starring Richard Thomas, Robert Vaughn, George Peppard, John Saxon, Sybil Danning, in a memorable role, Darlan Flugel, and others. I can't remember all the others, but this is a lot of fun. Written by John Sayles, who also wrote stuff like I think Alligator and The Howling, another one of my faves, which is coming up in 1981. But anyway, and a great score from James Horner, which obviously Roger Corman would reuse the James Horner score for this in many of his films, just like he'd reuse the special effects in various films. Had a budget of only $2 million, but at the time it was the most expensive Roger Corman production ever. But its box office was $11 million, so it did okay. It's a lot of fun. It's as I said, it's like the Magnificent Seven, where John Saxon's bad guy Sador comes to the planet of Akia, named after Akira Kurosawa. Comes to the planet of Akia and wants to take over. Gives them a week to decide if they're going to submit to him. So in that time, they decide to go out, look for mercenaries to come and protect them from him, and fun ensues. It's great. It's great. But all us young lads remember this St. X-Men, Sybil Danning as St. X-Men and her amazing outfit. Right, so that's Battle Beyond the Stars. Right, next up, another sci-fi. They've all been sci-fi so far. Hangar 18, which I thought, for a lot of years, was a TV movie, but it's not. It's actually a proper theatrical film, apparently. I thought it was a TV movie, a made-for-TV movie. Like a movie of the week sort of thing. A bit like Duel, Steven Spielberg's Duel. I thought it was one of those sort of films, but it isn't. Anyway, Hangar 18, it's the UFO film, directed by James L. Conway, who's done a lot of TV work. That's probably why I thought it was a TV movie. He's done a lot of Star Trek and stuff like that. And written by Ken Pettis, who I've never heard of. It stars Darren McGavin, Robert Vaughn again, who were in Battle Beyond the Stars. Gary Collins, James Hampton, and Pamela Bellwood. What happens in it? A space shuttle launches a satellite, and the satellite crashes into a UFO. The UFO crashes to Earth, and it is retrieved. It's a bit like Roswell sort of thing. And they take the crashed UFO to a base called Hangar 18. To be studied. Darren McGavin's in charge of that. But the astronauts from the space shuttle, they find themselves being sort of like elbowed out. All data of what happened in the mission is erased. So they go on a mission, their own mission to uncover the truth of what's going on. Kind of got Capricorn 1 vibes, but not on such a grand scale. It didn't have a huge budget. But it is a great film. It is a great film, and it's a lot of it's a good conspiracy thriller, and it's interesting because if you're into like Eric von Daniken, Ancient Aliens, basically, if you're into Ancient Aliens, you'll like Hangar 18 because these aliens have been here a long time, or they have been in the past, and they're coming back for some reason, and it was never followed up. It was just left on a cliffhanger. The aliens are coming back. Sort of. But anyway, so there we go. So that's Hangar 18, another one that's one of my faves. Next up, the big one from this year, obviously, The Empire Strikes Back, or Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Everybody just calls it Empire. We all know this one, directed by Irvin Kershner, screenplay by Lee Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan, obviously from a story by George Lucas. It stars the usual gang. By the way, this was the last Star Wars film produced by Gary Kurtz. I think they'd have a falling out during Return of the Jedi, which some people suggest is why the Star Wars films kind of dropped off in quality after Empire. But anyway, you can make your own mind up about that. Anyway, it stars the usual gang: Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Billy D. Williams, Anthony Daniels, Dave Prowse as Darth Vader, James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader, Peter Mayhew, and Frank Oz, who would pop up in a memorable role, but one that my mate hates. My best mate hates Yoda. He does. He thinks he's just a green fuzzy bear, which he kind of is. An amazing score by John Williams, and we know the story. The rebels are on Hoth, the ice planet, and the Empire arrives, so they've got to escape. And then Luke goes to Dagobah, the rest go to Bespin and Cloud City, where we meet Lando Calrissian and all that stuff. The amazing scene of the asteroid field and all that stuff. It's an amazing film, but not my favourite Star Wars film. My favourite Star Wars is the original Star Wars. Briefly, it was Rogue One, but I think I've gone back to the original Star Wars now. And I think Empire is it's joint second with Rogue One. I do love Rogue One, even though it does have problems. Well, a problem with, but never mind. Anyway, That's by the by. So there we go. So that's the Empire Strikes Back. Amazing film. Budget $30 million. Box office $1 bazillion. 500 to 600 million. We know it did well. Right, and finally, the final one of my top 5 favourite films of 1980 is Airplane, the amazing comedy from Jim Abrams and the Zucker brothers, David and Jerry. It's a hilarious film. A lot of people say it's one of the best comedies ever made. It's up there with Blazing Saddles and Life of Brian and or whatever, the Monty Python films. It is astonishingly funny and stupid, and deliberately so. Stars Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Leslie Nielsen, Robert Stack, Lloyd Bridges, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar as himself, and Lorna Patterson, with a memorable score from Elmer Bernstein, or Steen, I don't know how to pronounce it. It is hilarious. Passengers on the plane. There's they all get food poisoning on this plane, and the pilots end up dying or whatever, or get super ill. So Robert Hayes' character Ted Stryker has got to step up and fly the plane, but he's got PTSD from his wartime experiences. They keep showing footage of like World War II, but he obviously doesn't look old enough to be in World War II. But never mind. And it is hilarious, and Leslie Nielsen steals the film as the Doctor in the film, and it is hilarious. You've just got to see it to believe it. They did another one. They did Airplane 2, which essentially just repeated the same format, but in space. And we had William Shatner in that one, and that is fun, but not as much fun as the first one. So there we go. That's my top 5. Right. So we'll power through my 5 honourable mentions. So here we go. First up, The Fog from John Carpenter. Super creepy, atmospheric ghost story with leper not pirates. Well, sort of, I suppose, though. Like lepers from an old ship coming back to haunt a town after 100 years. It's a cool, creepy film. Then, sticking with horror, Friday the 13th, the first one, from, I forgot the director, Sean S. Cunningham. Yes, Sean S. Cunningham, where we see Kevin Bacon get an arrow shoved through his neck. What more could you want? And I won't spoil who the killer is. If you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. Next up, The Final Countdown, not the Europe song. No, this is The Final Countdown, starring Kirk Douglas, James Valentino, Martin Sheen, and somebody else, Catherine Ross, I think. It's been a while since I've seen this one. This one's another one that's a film that's probably better than it has any right to be. It's about the USS Nimitz. It goes back in time to Pearl Harbor, or the days leading up to Pearl Harbor, and they've got to make a decision. This is the largest aircraft carrier in the world with the most amazing jets on it, and it's the most powerful military thing in the world, even in 1980. But back in 1941, it had wiped the floor with the Japanese fleet, allegedly, probably. So they've got to make a decision. Do they intercept? Do they stop Pearl Harbor? Do they change history? So there we go. That's what that's all about. A great film with some, slightly iffy effects. They're not really effects. They're more, I don't know, filters that are used. They got Maurice Binder in to do the effects, and he's more famous for doing the opening sequences for James Bond films. So there are lots of lasers. Anyway. Next up, sticking with the sea, it's Raise the Titanic, based on the Clive Cussler book, the Dirk Pitt novel, where essentially it does what it says on the tin. They raise the Titanic, and it's silly, and they do actually do it. There's also a subplot about there being some weird super ace element that were being transported on the Titanic, which is why they want to raise it or something. There's something super valuable on, but it's not like gold. It's like some power source or something like that. They do that. Anyway, they bring it up and they sail it back to shore, obviously. But now we know that would have been impossible because it's split in two, didn't it? Anyway. And finally, we've got Any Which Way You Can, the sequel to Every Which Way But Loose, which sees Clint Eastwood as Philo Beddoe having a super long fist fight with, I've forgotten the actor's name, I'm sorry, with the main bad guy in it. And it's silly, but it's also funny. And it's got some cool like country music in it as well. So there we go. Give them all a whirl. Right, so that's it for 1980. So we're in the 80s now. Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So what's 1981 going to bring us? Remember I said I'd only gone up to 1980. Well, I've gone up to 1985 now in my list. And 1981 has a lot of films on the list. I've got my top 5, which I won't tell you what they are, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 honourable mentions. And I think, should I leave some of these out? And I thought, I can't really. And there are a lot I have left out. 1981 were a good year. And so 1982. In fact, they all were. 1984 is possibly the most amazing year. People go on about 1982 because of Star Trek 2 and E.T. and stuff like that, don't they? But looking at 1984, I'm like, bloody hell. But anyway, so we'll leave it there. So that's 1980 out of the way. We'll go through the list one more time. First up, we had Flash Gordon, then Battle Beyond the Stars, then Hangar 18, followed by The Empire Strikes Back and Airplane. Then the honourable mentions were The Fog, Friday the 13th, The Final Countdown, Raise the Titanic, and Any Which Way You Can. So that's it for 1980. That was my top 5 favourite films of the year, along with 5 honourable mentions. So that's it. So we'll leave it there. So thanks for watching, wherever you are. Look after each other, and until next time, I'll say the...